Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Abbasid Dynasty and how you can play Abbasid Dynasty using only these three build orders that I'm going to show you today. The build orders are a very fast second town center build. It's going to be a 2 town center build as well with a stable opener and then a 1 town center aggression. So all the builds that you would need to play land Abbasid. If you're looking for more water maps type builds, there are lots of videos on my channel that you can check out for water as well. This video is dedicated to land maps. As usual, check out the description. There will be build orders down there transcribed. You can follow along. And if you have any questions about the build, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll be doing my best to answer those. So let's just get to the 2 towns in the build. When you play Abbasid, you're going to be playing typically 2 types of styles. One is the military wing style, where you open up with military wing, you get some early military units that you can then do some damage with or defend yourself with. The other wing that people usually go for is the economy wing. An economy wing is really good if you want a faster second TC timing. I'm going to be trying to give you a build here where you can go for a second town center and get started on constructing it at about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It's incredibly fast, and I think it might possibly be, together with HRE, Order of the Dragon, the fastest second TC timing that you can possibly get. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be opening up with 6 on sheep, and one of those sheep builds will be building a House of Wisdom, the other one will be building a house. What's really important here is that you don't delete the straggler trees, never construct on top of them, and then try to build the House of Wisdom not towards the gold like that, but sort of offset so that the villagers don't have to go all the way around the House of Wisdom. You sort of want to avoid that, so they just have a direct line here. Then you send 2 to gold, so it's a 6 on food, 2 to gold, and then rally back to food. That's it. That is the whole Dark Age. Simply like that. Because what you're going to be doing then is you're going to rally onto food, you're going to age up, get that economic wing. The gold you're going to be gathering is going to be enough for Fertile Crescent, and then you're not going to be gathering any more gold. You're going to be using the vills to get that faster second town center timing. So that's pretty much it. Scout goes aggressive. You are a berry sieve, and while we are not eating berries right now, we're not really going to be losing out on food in general. So you can go for those really long scouting routes, especially when you play a berry sieve like Abbasid. So we're just going to be rallying onto food now, up until you have about 10, 11. You're going to be watching the timer up here. The timer is what you're looking for. And ultimately, you can also look at your gold. 3,900 out of 4,000 gold, and you know you have enough to go for economy wing. So this guy's going to drop off. You can drop off your berries, sorry, your sheep, and then you can click up with economic wing. Once you've done that, you're going to be putting 5 on sheep. You're going to be putting 4 on stone, and then you rally wood until you have your second town center. That's it. 4 to stone, 5 to sheep, rest to wood. Very simple. Here, I'm dropping off my sheep. I do still need them if I'm going to keep on being on sheep like this and not have to go onto the mill. So that's something to be aware of. The gold mark you're looking for is 3,825 gold out of 4,000. Then you know you have enough for the Fertile Crescent technology, which is the whole reason why we're going economic wing in the first place. It is to get this technology. And so it reduces the cost of all of our economic buildings by 30%. It's really strong, and you can use it to get a faster farm transition, or what would you say, like a cheaper one, without sacrificing too much of your wood. You can use it, as we're doing here, to get a second town center quicker. And if your opponent tries to go aggressive against you, you can then play very heavy on archers and stuff, because you don't need to spend as much wood. And so you also reduce your food consumption that way. When you play with the second town center and your opponent then goes for their own second TC, with Fertile Crescent, it is incredibly fast to go for a third town center, and that's also something you can consider as a potential follow-up, either in Feudal Age or Castle Age, if your opponent decides to take that approach. And it's usually a really good thing for you if they do, so you should be happy nonetheless. You will always be able to get a second town center down, unless you're getting Dark Age rushed by some, instance. And that's very rarely going to happen. We're now in the Feudal Age. And in the Feudal Age, you're going to be clicking Fertile Crescent. You should have the food you need because you've been on 5 villagers on sheep. Now you can take 1 away once you've clicked the Fertile Crescent. You should be watching your stone at this point. You're looking to go down to 955 stone because the second town center is going to cost 245 stone. So that's the mark you have to hit. Then you're just gathering from the straggler trees. So you've built a house so that you aren't gonna block yourself. I've tried to do this without a house, and you can't do it without having too much idle time on your TC. So just get that house, even though you don't have the tech from the Fertile Crescent to reduce the wood cost. Here, we drop off the wood, and the moment that this tech comes through, you just grab all of those wood bills, and then you build the second TC, like that. 428, I think I hit here. If you get 430, wonderful. That's perfect. If you get 435, 440, that's also okay. If you're hitting 5 minutes, you're doing something wrong. And maybe take a look at your macro. That's usually the culprit. That is basically the main part of the build order. Now, a few tips when it comes to playing this build is a lot of times people want to play aggressive against you to try to shut you down before you get an economic lead, if they do not want to try to play that long economic game. And so place your second town center defensively. On the wood line is usually really good, especially if you have a back wood line. Place it there, because then it's both a drop-off point, it's a defensive position, but don't place it like out here in the front, because you're just going to lose that. Instead, place it here, use it as a tower of some sort, and then just focus primarily on getting wood, because your main defensive units are going to be archers. Added on top is going to be spears, in the case you're up against cavalry. Here, you also send a few of those over to gold. You want to get more upgrades as you are playing it out. But ultimately, you are already on second TC. You're already going to get that economic advantage if your opponent's not going to go for it. So your only goal is to stay alive. If you then stay alive, you manage to fend them off. You have archers, spears. What you can often find is you'll have a whole lot of army from the Feudal Age. That army, well, you can upgrade it. And that's where you go military wing in the Castle Age. Military wing in the Castle Age gives you composite bows. Composite bows gives you 33% attack speed on your archers. And all of a sudden, with +2 ranged attack and the veterancy upgrades plus composite bows on your archers, you have a really, really strong army in the Castle Age that you got in the Feudal Age that you just need to upgrade. So the reason I'm speeding up here is just so you guys can see how I'm developing my base. I'm leaving space for the farms here in between, in a situation where I have to play more defensive. And then when I go up to play for units, I'm just playing primarily archers. So you can see I've got 3 archer ranges and 1 barrack, always producing out of my TCs, trying to always produce out of my production. And then the spot, or sorry, the mark I should say, for unit production, you're trying to hit about on 11 minutes, that 50 unit mark is what I think I got here. So here on 10, I'm about 30 units in. And so very, very soon I'll be up to 50. So if we can't count them down here, we're on 40 now at 11 minutes. And not too long after here, 11:30, maybe we might be in 50 units. So you can stay alive until this mark, and you should have enough units to defend yourself with, because most aggressive strats reach 40 units at 11 minutes. So really quick catch-up time here. Alright, anyways, let's take a look at the next build order. The next 2 builds I'm going to be showing you are both going to be the same Dark Age opener. So I've tried to make it as simple for you as possible so that you can choose, and when you're scouting, what to adapt. And so you can say, okay, this build, I'm going to be trying to do 1 TC aggression because I'm up against fast castle civ. Whereas in the next one, which is a 2 town center build with a stable opener, you are then going to be trying to compete for long feudal. So that's a build that's better against French and Delhi. So you can use 1 TC aggression against other aggressive civs, but here it's more like, okay, we have the same opener, we pick later on what we want to do. All right, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to use berries this time. So instead of going on sheep, we're going to prioritize preservation of food instead, so that we have food to make units from, instead of trying to eat all of our sheep, potentially getting knocked out in the early stage of feudal, and then you can't produce units. So we eat sheep instead, sorry, berries instead, so we can preserve our sheep. 6 onto the berries, you send 1 to sheep. This guy here will build a house of wisdom, and 1 of the berry villas will build a house. Simple as that. Then you're going to be rallying 3 villagers onto gold. So what's this going to do? Well, it's going to create a 7-3 split. 7-3 split is a little bit of a different opener compared to the 6-2 split. It's fundamentally the same thing in terms of timing, but you are moving villagers differently. So 6-2, you're moving a minimal amount of vills back and forth from the gold to the berries and so on. Here we are leaving the 6 on berries. We're leaving at least 2 on gold, and so we have less idle time. Therefore, we put them on earlier, and we can put them further away because they're not going to move. House of Wisdom. goes down. You're going to be clicking military wing with this build. So it's a 1 town center military wing build. And as I said before, there's an adaptation to this with a stable opener and a second TC that I'll show you afterwards. So we're going to be continuing on to about 215, 212. So when you're trying to age up, watch that gold go down to 3,900 gold. And then you can usually drop off all your food. Make sure you have 1 villain queue. And then you just click military wing. 216 there. All right. After that, take 1 of your gold vills, put them over to straggler trees, leave the 6 berry vills, right? You don't need to move those because you need to gather up food preemptively. And then you just rally onto wood. You want to rally onto wood until you have about 11 on wood. So 2 on gold, 6 on food, and then 11 on wood. Then you can rally back to food. This wood you'll need so you can actually produce units, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You just want to get as much wood as possible so you can get a fast golden age, and that golden age is going to give you a really good boost economically. It's basically the same as getting all the tier 1 upgrades. So horticulture, double broadaxe, the mining upgrade, all of those upgrades. And so prioritize getting that as fast as possible. I think I get it at about 430 usually when I play the 1 town center build. So try to see if you can get it close to that. 440 is also fine. All right. So lumber camp goes down. Straggler tree is getting gathered up here. After that, we're going to be getting a stable. So the moment we click up, we have prepared a house, and then we're immediately able to click a stable to connect the mining camp here. These units are going to go forward, and it's really, really important that you remember to get this house, because you need this house, otherwise those units won't come out. So don't forget about that. After that, it's just constant horseman production until you don't need horsemen anymore, because your opponent makes too many spears or whatnot. And then during that horseman production, you're just getting the houses that you need to get up to that 10 out of 10 structure count for tier 1 golden age. All right. So up to 11 on wood, up to 11 on food, and then you re-macro depending on what type of units you're going to make. So if you're going to drop 2 archer rangers, you'll need at least 10 on wood, right? If you're going to drop a barrack and a stable and run just that, you'll need about 4 on wood and then the rest on food. So there's a big difference there in terms of macro. But it's also in terms of what you scout, what's your opponent gonna go. And so that's how you should make that decision on your follow-up building. I always like to go stable, barrack, archer range into blacksmith. Not necessarily in that order, but to have 2 or 3 production buildings and then get my blacksmith at about that 6 to 7 minute mark. Start to get my upgrades at around that point as well. But you don't need to really get it until 8 minutes. Alright, so again, very simple. Not a lot more to this besides just producing. So we got our barracks, we've got our stable, archer range, blacksmith. We've left those 2 on gold the entire time. We've got our double broadaxe upgrade, and we are then going to look to get our blacksmith upgrades as well. It's important you get that double broadaxe upgrade because you are going to have a lot of bills on wood very early, and so they benefit very quickly from it. It pays off quickly compared to if you were to get the horticulture upgrade, because you are not going to go on food as heavy early. So still, you want to get those for sure. But the double broadaxe one is very good because we prioritize getting wood. Then we get our ranged armor because we are running spears and archers and horsemen. If we were running primarily archers, we would maybe get archer upgrade first, so the ranged attack. But ultimately, you should always go for +1, ranged armor, and attack. That should be your main priority. If you're up against a lot of melee units, like man at arms and stuff, can be a priority maybe to get melee armor. But ultimately speaking, it's really not that important to get those compared to the ranged ones. Then later on, get your eco-techs. If you're going to go for an all-in timing, you're not going to need those as much. For example, if you're trying to take down a second town center, because you want to just get rams and then you win the game after, so the payoff isn't really going to happen on those. But here it's just, you know, aggression, aggression, aggression. You're trying to build up about 40 units at a minute 11. Keep in mind, compared to the 2TC build where we had about 50 units at 11:30, here we are running also horsemen, and those are more expensive. And so they eat up a lot more food. You'll need map control. So don't be afraid to go out on the map. You will get that map control by simply producing units. But it's very different from playing a 2 town center build. A lot of the times we don't have access to food in the same way, and we will have to eat a lot more sheep. So just play out on the map whenever possible. And that's pretty much it. Just full produce units, and then go as aggressive as you can or need. Maybe age up at some point. And then in the castle age, you can even go for economic wing and get the second town center there if you want to catch up or try to play for a second victory condition. after you've got your relics. And then in the late game, you can go trade wing or you can go culture wing. Up to you, really. Abbasid also has the option to go for H5 by just Hing up to Imperial twice, which is kind of weird, but you can do that. Anyways, let's get to the last build, which is an adaptation of the current one. Let's get to the last build order of this video. So 3 build orders. This is the last one. This is one of those that are a little bit tricky to do. This is probably the hardest one of all of the build orders here in this video, since you are going to be doing a lot of macroing early. And if you mess it up, you can really ruin your timings and lose villagers by not having your TC timing. So this one will take a little bit of practice for new players for sure. What you're going to be doing is the same Dark Age as the ones that I just showed you. So you're going to go 6 to berries, 1 to sheep, then 3 to gold. You are then going to be making some changes in the Feudal Age, but I'll show you what that looks like when we get to it. As usual, build order is linked in the description below, so follow along. It's probably a good idea for this one. So House of Wisdom goes up, right? We're going to get a House of Wisdom, then we're going to get a house as well, and then you get your mining camp. Mining camp, you get your Goldville, 3 to gold, pretty simple, just like that. You can choose to build the house with a Berryville or a Sheepville, doesn't really matter what works here. I didn't really want to build it here because it would take up farm space. Here it makes more sense because the mill gives 2 influence range instead of just a regular 1 that we get from the TC. So we have 7 on food, so 6 of those are on berries, 1 is on sheep. And then we go with 3 on gold. The reason this sheepville is not going to berries is because this sheepville has to go to the wood later on anyways. So too much idle time, as I explained before. We have 3 on gold, and what we do now is we just rally onto sheep until we're able to age up. And we're looking for that 212 age up time, 215, 212. And then we're going to go military wing. Military wing, I really like this wing because it gives us a lot of opportunity to do damage early, to push our opponents to play more passive or defensive in their base, which is really good when you want to cover for a second town center. And that's what this build does. It opens up with military wing, and then later on we go into a stable. And with that, we're then able to say, okay, we can force our opponent to play a bit further back because we instantly get 360 resources worth of units and 2 spears and 2 archers. And so they're forced to play further back in their base. And then in the meantime, we get that second TC. But the cool thing about this build as well, which is something that a lot of people overlook, is the power of having the 1-1-1 openers. We have the tri-comp immediately, but we only need to build 1 production building. So military wing is 2 spears, 2 archers. Stable gives you 1 horseman, and now you can counter every single unit that your opponent can push out. And that's incredibly strong because your opponent is going to be stuck trying to get 2 types of units out just to be able to counter yours. Whereas usually when you have a 2-piece comp like spear archers, they're countered by archers. And that's not the case here. So really good against civs like Delhi, like French, that usually open up with cavalry units, for example, because you already have 2 spears and your horsemen can chase those down. All right, so 3 on gold, you're going to be going down to 38.25 out of 4k gold here because we want to get this upgrade, which is fresh foodstuffs. We're going to keep our berryvilles here on the berries, and then we're going to take all of our sheepvilles and rally onto the straggler trees. So you're going to gather all of your straggler trees this time because we need that wood for a house, we need it for a stable and a mining camp as well. As you can see here, we pulled off when we got that 75 gold that we needed, and now we're going to be gathering stone and building a mining camp. So just build that mining camp whenever you can. Later on, we're going to connect these buildings. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch here, but it's perfectly doable. These are just being left here. They're pre-gathering the food we need to be able to produce horsemen. And then we're just going to, rally wood. As you can see, we'll need a house as well. So we're taking 1 berryville to build a house. We need that house so our military wing units can come out. And then on the H-up, which should happen about 3:58, 4 minutes, you should get your stable as the first thing. And then afterwards, you construct some more houses, 2 houses, and then a lumber camp. That's going to give you your golden age. You want that golden age as quickly as possible because it's like getting all the tier 1s. As I said before, tier 1 upgrades, they're usually a little bit more expensive. Here, it's quite cheap, so just go for it. It's perfectly doable. Get that stable, make it connect the mining camps here, and then connect the stable with a house. Then later on, get another house and a lumber camp to connect to the wood line, and you'll have everything connected here. It's very doable, as you can see. If you struggle with this stuff, you can also try to build your House of Wisdom towards the further out mining camps, and then connect the rest of the buildings just with houses to the lumber camps and mills. Now in the Feudal Age, we're pushing forward with our military and archer range units. and then we're just going to make horsemen nonstop. We have the food preemptively saved, and so that's going to give us enough food to make horsemen. When it's possible for you, you want to get your fresh foodstuffs upgrade, as it reduces the cost of villagers, and it effectively makes you only pay a total of 6 villagers on food to maintain constant villager production. So prioritize getting fresh foodstuffs whenever you can. You don't really need it researched until you have the second TC, but just get it as quick as possible. Here I'm actually delaying it a little bit, and you don't really need to do that. You simply just need to get your constant horseman production, your constant villager production, and then your golden age. That's that's pretty much it, really. So now we've got the tri-comp going. We've got our horsemen coming out of our stable here. We have our spears, our archers, and our scouters going with our units. We don't want to go in blindly. Maybe our opponent scouted us and got archers out quick, or 2 knights is usually enough to take out these military wing units. So try to play it a little bit safe by having your scout, but you want to go aggressive still. Right. As you can see, we are low on wood, but we are gathering it very quickly with all of these villas that we have here. So we're still rallying onto the wood line. That wood line is going to be where we're also going to place our second town center, because as with the Eco Wing build, we are usually going to be sitting in our base a little bit more when we are not playing one town center, because we give up map control the moment we go for 2 town center. So just be aware of that. Even though we open up with a stable opener, sometimes opponents can push back quite quickly, and so you should never put a second TC out here, for example. That's foolish. All right. We almost missed it here, but about 6 minutes in, you're going to be building your second town center. You basically pull off stone when you have 850 stone. Here I did drop off, but I forgot to move these vills. You would just move these stone vills to the TC, and then put the 3 stone vills back to gold. These vills here, the 15 wood vills, are going to go back to wood after, and we're just going to rally onto to food, so that we can get that constant food production and still maintain production of our military units. After that, it's pretty simple. It's like the second TC build. We are probably going to be able to produce a little bit more food-heavy units, because we already have a stable. But usually, you're just going to follow up with Spear Archer, which is what we're going to do here as well. And then, since we have 3 in gold, we just get all our economy upgrades, and then afterwards we get a blacksmith, get that last tech going. So yeah, again, that's pretty much it for this build. There's not a lot more to it. I would really, again, just advise to use this build in some matchups where you know you're going to be playing long feudal, and against units and civs, typically employing like cavalry and stuff. So anything from like Order of the Dragon, Delhi, French in particular, because you are just able to deal with that in a long feudal situation with this added victory condition of the second town center. So that's where I would use it over the second TC normal Eco Wing build. By the way, you can use that too, but I would really say this one is probably my go-to. So up to you. The other one's probably more simple. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the description, in the comment section below, and I will be doing my best to answer those questions. And good luck on playing Abbasid.